All right, so we're going to be starting section 2.3, part A. This is slopes and intercepts, okay? Not so much only Y-intercepts, but X and Y intercepts in general, okay? So we're going to kind of talk about that. Your homework is only 10 problems. I'm going to do probably about 5 of these for you guys. You get to do 5 on your own. There does require you, it does require you to kind of do a little bit of drawing here and there, okay? But it's nothing too difficult. We're still kind of dealing with just lines, okay? Now, first off, we're going to do finding of slopes. Now, let me introduce a formula for you guys in terms of slopes. So, slope. Now, a lot of people know the formula for slope as m equals to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, we're going to use this formula a little bit later, but it is something that a lot of you guys probably do remember. Now, in order to do that, they need to give you 2 points. Okay? And those 2 points are x sub 1, y sub 1. Whoops, sorry about that. I didn't write that right. X sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. So those are the 2 points they should give you. Now, I know that looks just kind of weird, but in other words, just 2 points that are not identical. Okay, so 2 comma 3 and 5 comma 0 or something like that. Okay, so the formula for slope is just y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, given those 2 points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. We'll talk about the formula, like I said, in more detail later, but another thing about slope is that people call it rise over run. Okay? And I'm going to put right here, if positive. And then I'm going to put the other one, which is fall over run, if negative. Now, what I mean by that is in terms of a picture. Okay? So, if I had a picture here, and I know these are really small, but they're just small on purpose. It's not like I'm trying to draw a really nice, clean graph. But by positive, we mean a graph that's going uphill. If your line is going uphill, we say it has a positive slope. Okay, so uphill is a positive slope. Okay, a negative slope would mean that it's going downhill. Okay, so sometimes people will say that slope is that formula there. Some people will say it's rise over run. Some will say it's fall over run. Okay, by the way, a negative slope actually has a negative in front of the number. So if it was like a slope of -5, that means you're going downwards, right, with the slope of 5. If you have a fraction of 2 over 3 for your slope, since 2 over 3 is positive, that means it's going up. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there. But so rise over run and fall over. Now, there's 2 special slopes that you guys need to be aware of. So some special slopes. That's the slope of 0. So a 0 slope. And this is just a horizontal line. Again, I'm just going to kind of draw a real quick, tiny picture here. Nothing special, just... So any line that's horizontal, if they tell you, like, what's the slope on this? And it's just straight across, that's a 0 slope, okay? There's no slope. Slope equals 0. M equals 0, okay? And then there's the undefined slope. And this is a vertical line. So here's going to be just a picture of a vertical line. Whenever a line is just going straight up and down, that has no slope, okay? Undefined. Some people will say no slope, but I prefer the term undefined slope. The reason why it's undefined is normally a slope is supposed to go like up and to the right, or down and to the right, okay? So in other words, whenever I'm graphing something, don't draw this, but go ahead and just kind of take a look at this really quick. But don't draw it because I'm going to erase it. So usually you start at a specific point and then you go, let's say, down and to the right. And then you can connect these dots, okay? That's usually what you're supposed to do. But if you just go from one point straight down, like this, from this point to this point, I may have moved down 1, 2, 3 times. But how many times did I move to the left or to the right? 0. And if you run, that's what the run refers to, your movement to the right, run right usually. If your run is 0 and your formula is rise over run, and this is a 0, can you divide by 0? No, that's why they call it undefined. They say you cannot divide by 0, so this slope is undefined because you're dividing by 0. So vertical lines are called undefined because the run portion of it is 0. There's nothing. It doesn't go right. It doesn't go left. It just goes straight down or maybe straight up. Okay? So that's why they call it an undefined slope. Okay? The horizontal line, like I said, is a 0 slope. So how are we going to find slopes in different ways in this assignment? So let me show you example number 1. So this is going to be find the slope of each line. So here are the instructions. Find the slope of each line. And here's example number 1. So I am going to draw this a lot cleaner, okay? Let me just take my time with this to make sure that I get this done right. So there's a point here. And right here. That's not working. Oh well, I'm just going to do it freehand, sorry. All right. So this is the first example. And for your homework problem, it's going to basically look like that. Okay? This is what it's going to kind of look like. They're going to draw a picture for you. They're going to put dots on the line for you. Okay? They are already going to be there. Now, sometimes they don't include the dots for you, so you get to put them yourself. So just pick some nice dots, that have nice coordinates. But for your homework, it's already going to be pre-picked for you. Okay? And when they say find the slope, remember, the slope can be the formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. It can be that, or if they gave you a picture, then just think of it like this. Slope is rise over run or fall over run. Now, is this a positive slope or a negative slope to this line? Negative, because it's going downhill, right? So I'm going to do minus fall over run. Okay, that's what I'm going to do first. I'm just going to write down my formula, but not the actual y2s and y1, more my idea of what a slope is. Now, I'm going to travel from this point here to that point there. Okay? How many times do I have to go down in order to be at the same height as the other point? 2. So I'm going to write 2. So now I'm like right here, right? Right where that little X is. how many times do I have to move to the right from that little X to get to that black point? 3. And there's my answer. That's my slope. Okay? So I started with the point farthest to the left, just like you read a book, right? You go left to right. So I'm starting the point farthest to the left, and then I said, okay, I'm going to start from that point. I got to get to the other point. I notice it's a negative slope. That means I have to go down and to the right. If I have to go down, that means it's negative. So I put the negative there already, right? And then fall over run. How many times did I have to fall? Well, I fell 1, 2. 2 times I fell down. How many times did I go over to the right? 3 times. Now, I'll show you a little technique that I learned, and you don't have to copy it, but something I learned a long time ago from one of my teachers was this. She used to draw a triangle to connect it, and then she used to say, what's the height and what's the base? And I'd say, oh, well, the height is 2 and the base is 3. So you can see the 2 over 3 right there, right? So if you want to draw a little triangle to connect the dots like that, feel free to do that. You don't have to, but if you want to, maybe it helps you figure out the dimensions. Okay, but I always see it as a triangle now. I don't really see it as moving. I draw a triangle in my head and I see it and I'm like, okay, height is this, base is this. So it's height over base, height over base. That's what I'm doing. Okay? Now let me give you one more. Okay? So example number 2. So it's going to be another one of these pictures. Let me see here. Put it at negative 2, 2. Or negative 2, negative 2. And the other one is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Right here. Again, these are coming from your homework. So I'm making sure I'm getting these things labeled properly for you guys. So they're going to give you a picture like this, and they're going to say, find the slope. As you guys are drawing this out, is this a positive or a negative slope? Positive slope, okay? By the way, if you see a line drawn flat, which there isn't going to be one in the first 4 problems, don't worry. But if you see it flat, just write 0, okay? If you see it straight up and down, just put undefined, okay? But if it's diagonal somehow, then you got to figure it out. All right, so we said this is positive, so that means we're going to write rise over run, not fall. Fall means it's negative, okay? So rise over run. So I'm going to start with this point right here. Remember, furthest left. And I want to get all the way over here. Remember, I got to go up and then to the right. So how many times do I have to go up to be at the same level as the other point? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Correct. There's my little X mark right there. It is going to be 4 times up. How many times do I have to go to the right from that little X mark? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Correct. 4 over 6. Now, don't leave your answer like that. You're supposed to simplify all the time, right? So that's 2/3, right? When you simplify it, that's 2/3. So there's your slope. So you have 4 problems like that on your homework. We just did 2, so you got 2 more to go. Okay? Not necessarily difficult, just, just take your time with them. Most of the homework that I have you guys do just requires you guys to take some time and attempt it. Now, if you want to do the triangle, it would look like this, okay? If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you kind of want to just double check, you can draw a little triangle, see if the dimensions are right. Okay? But you totally do not have to. It's not required. Any questions on these 2 or that we did? Because that's the first type of section they're going to make you do. All right. So you have 4 questions on calculating slope. Okay, so the instructions on this say find the slope of the line. So find the slope of the line through each pair of points. Now, a lot more people like these problems because these don't require drawing. You don't have to worry about looking at a graph or anything like that. It's just you trying to figure out the solution by plugging in numbers. Okay, so here's example number 4. Sorry, number 3, not number 4. So -1 comma -14, and then the other point is 20 comma -14. Now I'm going to show you guys how I learned this. Okay, I always try to teach the way I learn because remember I used to struggle a lot in high school. I had to teach myself sometimes. So any little trick that helped me, I tell you guys. Okay, I wasn't super bright in high school where I would see something the first time and I got it and I didn't have to study. Like no, I had to work at it, right? So what I would do is I would get my 2 points here that they gave me and I say, okay, I'm going to have to use a formula. But in order to use a formula, I need to know what x1, y1, x2, y2 is. So I used to write it down like this: x1, y1, x2, y2. The 1 and the 2 for me meant first point, second point. So x1, y1 meant xy of the first point. x2, y2 meant x and y of the second point. So 1 and 2 for me meant first and second point. I know mathematically that's not what they mean. Mathematically it's first and second variable of that type. But it makes more sense to think of it as the first point and the second point. Then all you have to do is remember your formula and not mess up on your signs. This is the most important part because most people make mistakes when they plug in their numbers with the wrong sign. So be very careful with this, okay? So, what is y2? -14. Okay, now you notice how right here there's already a minus. I'm going to highlight them for you. You see how there's already a minus? Make sure you write it in. Okay, now what's my y1? -14 again. Notice how I put the second number in a parenthesis? Okay, this is how I kept myself from messing up. Okay, I would put the second number I plugged in a parenthesis all the time. Now let's divide. What is x2? 20, thank you, and minus, remember because there's a minus there. What's x1? -1, all right. Again, notice how I put the second number in a parenthesis. Do you have to? No, but I used to do it so I don't mess up. Let's start to simplify. What do we get? -14 plus 14 over 20 plus 1. What's -14 plus 14? 0 over 21. But what's 0 over 21? 0 slope. So that means if they asked me to draw this, I would expect to be seeing a flat line. Okay? I would be expecting to see a flat line because my slope is 0. Notice I didn't really have to do anything like crazy here, right? I just needed a formula and plug in points. Make sure I plug them in properly because if I didn't, I'm definitely going to mess up. Okay? And just do my math right. And you guys have calculators in front of you, all right? I always tell my students, there's no reason for you to get an arithmetic portion wrong. Arithmetic meaning adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. You have a calculator. Double check when you do your calculations, okay? So it doesn't hurt. It's there. Might as well use it. All right, let's do another one. After this, we got one more, and then we're done, okay? So example number 4, we'll try this one. 12, negative 10, and negative 20, negative 18. Let's see. And remember, I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2. And by the way, I always get people to ask me, well, what if I want to call the first point x2, y2 and the second point x1, y1? Is that okay? Yes, you're going to still get the same answer. The only thing you don't want to do is this. You don't want to write x1, y2, x2, y1. You don't want to mix them up. The ones stay together, the twos stay together. If you mix them up, then no, your answer is going to be wrong. It's not going to be the same. Okay? So do me a favor. Take a minute. Calculate this. All right. So I wrote down the formula for us. M equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm just curious here. Alexis, did you get an answer? You weren't able to get it? How about David? Valerio? Negative 1/4. All right. So let me write this down just as a check there. So let's go ahead and do the work, and let's see. M is equal to y sub 2. What's my y sub 2? Negative 18. Thank you. Minus. And then y sub 1? Negative 10, right? Negative 10. Again, always write your second number in parentheses, because if you have two minuses, it'll be obvious that you got to change the signs, right? Then divided by, what's x2? All right, and then minus my x1, 12. All right, so simplifying, m is equal to negative 18 plus 10 over negative 20 minus 12. Bless you. So, all right, negative 18 plus 10 is negative 8. Negative 20 minus 12 is negative 32. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 8 over 32 reduces to 1/4. Is that what we got? Oh, the minus got missed. Do you see maybe where you miscalculated or something? Top or bottom? Oh, on both? Oh, okay. So yeah, again, and just be careful. Calculate your stuff, double check it. But yeah, 1/4 was correct. Just the minus sign was a little off. So, but there you go. Here's your solution. All right, now there's 3 ways they're making you do slope, okay, and intercepts. So we've already covered all the slope portion of this lesson. They're going to give you 2 problems on X, Y intercepts, and it's pretty easy to do. Just so you know, let me write this down here. To find intercepts. So to find the X and Y intercepts. Now, in case you don't remember, because I know you guys did this in Math 1, X and Y intercepts is where the line crosses the X and Y axis. Okay? So X and Y intercepts is where the line crosses the X and the Y axis. But to find them, this is what you're going to do. You're going to make a T-table or a T-chart. I'm not sure what your other teachers used to call them. I just call them tables. And you're going to do a diagonal set of zeros. Just like that. And basically what you're doing is you're going to plug in 0 for Y the first time. And this is going to find your X-intercept. Okay? When you plug in a 0 for Y and you solve the equation, once you plugged in 0 for Y, you'll find your X-intercept. And then once you do that, you'll put your answer where the X is, where it's empty. Okay? You're going to fill in these blanks right here. Okay? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to fill these in. Now, I'll use a different color here. That way you don't see it as the same process. Okay? Because to find the Y-intercept, you're going to let X equal 0. and then you're going to solve. And that'll give you something to put in the green box. And then once you have both of those, then you put those dots on your graph and you connect the dots. Okay? So, all right, let's go ahead and do this really quick. Example number 5. So here we go. We're going to find the X and Y intercepts, and then sketch. All right, so find the X and Y intercepts, and then we're going to sketch. And here's the problem. 2x plus y equal to -2. Find the X and Y intercepts, then sketch it. So let me draw my t-table here. X, Y, 0, 0. Okay, so let's plug in 0 for y first. So here we go. 2x plus 0 equals -2. Well, that means that 2x is -2. So what's x equal to in this case? -1, right? Because I'm going to have to divide by 2. -1. So that's 1 point, -1, 0. But still, before I graph, let me do the other part of the problem where I let 0 become my x value. So 2 times 0 plus y equals -2. Remember, I'm always plugging it into this equation right there, okay? Plugging them into that equation. So 2 times 0 is 0 plus y equals -2. That means that y is equal to -2. And I'm done. I got my 2 points. -1, 0, and 0, -2. So now I just got to sketch this. So let me just sketch this really quick, and then I'm finished. All right, so 1 point was -1, 0. Let me just kind of put my marks here so it can be a little cleaner. So 1 point was -1, 0. That's right here. -1, 0. The other point was 0, -2. That's right here. So connect the dots, and you're done. Is this a positive or a negative slope? Negative, right? We could figure out the slope if we wanted to, because now that we know the points, -1, 0, and 0, -2, now that I know the points, I could use a formula to figure out the slope. Or just count, right? The slope would be -2 over 1, or just -2, because you got to count down and to the right. So, all right, so there you go.